Some of the breaking news coming in. Walmart, the world's largest retailer, is issuing a new warning today, warning the company will have to raise prices due to President Trump's tariffs. The company's CEO, Doug McMillon, is expected to tell analysts this on an earnings call today. I'll read you a quote as they sent out excerpts ahead of time. "We will do our best to keep our prices as low as possible, but given the magnitude of the tariffs, even at the reduced levels announced this week, we aren't able to absorb all the pressure given the reality of narrow retail margins." Walmart said the prices will begin to go up later this month, and the hikes could put the company also in an uncomfortable position, if you will, with the Trump administration. You'll remember last month, the White House publicly shamed Jeff Bezos and also threatened Mattel's CEO with 100% tariffs after they said tariffs would lead to higher prices. Compare this news today with what Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told CNN's Dana Bash just on Sunday.
So we do expect a 10% baseline tariff to be in place for the foreseeable future, but don't buy the silly arguments that the U.S. consumer pays.
Joining me right now is Rick Newman, senior columnist with Yahoo Finance. It's good to see you, Rick. Okay, so what do you make, first and foremost, of the statement from Walmart?
None of this is surprising. The cost of goods is going up because these tariffs are a tax on something like $3 trillion worth of imports. So what's going to happen is, as the cost goes up to the importers such as Walmart and most retailers, they are going to pass as much of that cost on to end users as they can. This is not mysterious. We know what the level of the taxes is. It's about 30% on most stuff coming in from China. It's 25% on imported automobiles and auto parts. It's 25% on steel and aluminum. And for everything that's not covered by any of those, it's 10%. So that, more or less, is going to be the magnitude of the price hikes on these products that are coming in from other countries. And we know where these price hikes are going to show up as well. There's been a lot of analysis on this. We're going to see cars are going to get more expensive, car parts are going to get more expensive, car insurance is going to get more expensive, leather goods such as handbags are going to get more expensive, clothing, electronics, appliances. And we're going to hear more CEOs saying this because if you run a publicly owned company, you have an obligation to your shareholders to tell them what's going on with costs. So what's probably going to happen is we're going to see price hikes across the board from basically all retailers. So if Trump wants to go after them, he's going to go after all of them en masse instead of just picking off one or two the way he did earlier with Amazon.
You know, Republican Congressman Andy Barr, who's a big supporter of Trump's trade policy, was on with John just last hour and was asked about this Walmart news. And essentially, his case was still to say short-term pain, long-term gain. Let me play this.
Walmart will lower prices in the long run. Prices will come down lower in the long run because we're going to get better deals. This trade policy is creating massive opportunities, and we're back in a bull market because of the developments that are happening in the trade negotiations.
What do you think of that, Rick?
That's economically illogical. So the trade deals that Trump is trying to get, the concessions he's trying to get are, to the extent he's getting any or they make any sense, are to make it more favorable to get American products into foreign markets where there are barriers. That makes sense, but that is not going to do anything to lower costs in the United States.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts is with us. She sits on the House Financial Services Committee. Welcome.
Okay, so people are like, why should we care about Walmart raising the prices? And it's my understanding that Walmart is like the bellwether. And so if they are weathering the storm, everybody else, all the other retailers are going to be okay. But if Walmart is sounding the alarm, then it is cause for other retailers and therefore the consumers to be concerned.
Well, the bellwether for me is what I hear in community every day from constituents who are weathering the chaos of these reckless tariffs. Why are we in a trade war? I mean, you know, the reduced China tariffs that Trump signaled on Monday, that's a respite, but it doesn't fix the problem. The reason it doesn't fix the problem is because Donald Trump is the problem with his, you know, temper tantrum tariffs, you know, that are wreaking havoc for people. I have, you know, my governor and my mayors that are worried about the impact on state and municipal budgets. I have small business owners who are delaying hiring, who are worried about supply chain impact, who fear that they might have to shutter their doors. And moreover, working families and parents with young children in particular, those essential goods for babies, the costs have already skyrocketed. I know Donald Trump didn't know what to call it. It's a stroller. Strollers, cribs, and car seats. The cost has skyrocketed. And the thing about car seats is like 8 out of 10 car seats are manufactured in China. And that is the only way to safely move with your child to a medical appointment, to worship, to go visit with family. Not only that, it's the law of the land in 50 states. And so that's why and then I am on the Financial Services Committee when Secretary DeSant, the Secretary of the Treasury, came before us. I pressed him, look, I don't want any of these reckless tariffs, but if you are going to proceed forward, then we need an exemption at least on these essential goods for babies. And he said it is under consideration. So I hope that they will move swiftly on that because people are hurting.
So you have the trade war going on one hand, and then you have the debate that you're currently having on Capitol Hill, you want to call it that. I know people take issue with that verb over this reconciliation package. Do you have a sense of where the Republicans are right now?
Well,
it's the long pause for me. It was like
that pause was like, okay.
You know, look, let me just say this. They have lost the plot, and the plot is the people. And they know that this tax cut for the wealthy, kicking 14 million people off of health care, taking food out of the mouths of veterans, our seniors, our babies, that this is unpopular. And for people who are hell-bent on keeping a job instead of doing it, they need to listen to their constituents because they are afraid. You know, Donald Trump refers to this as the big, beautiful bill. It's big, all right, and it is ugly because it is going to make people hungrier. It's going to make people poorer. It's going to make people sicker. People will die. And the other thing I want to say is that Republicans are running scared. So they won't be 10 toes down and do town halls and be accountable to constituents. And it's gotten so bad that I have constituents that are contacting me because they can't get an audience with their Republican members. So during our markup in the Financial Services Committee, this was an issue that I pushed on, and I elevated the story of a hospice nurse, 70 years old, Mary, from Michigan, who could not get a response from Rep. McCaskill. She reached out and said, look, I have an autistic son. He cannot be left alone. It would be injurious and dangerous. He receives Social Security and Medicaid. And if these cuts happen, it will be a death sentence for our son. So I told that story in committee because they don't want to hear what we have to say. I mean, you know, we can't shame them into action. They're not moved by benevolence. So at a minimum, I hope that they will listen to their constituents and be moved by the understanding that, you know, they stand to have their seats threatened. But moreover, it's just the right thing to do. So they've lost the plot. And we just need 4 Republicans of conscience, and we can stop this. And the last thing is, we do have a discharge petition to force a vote on this. We have it's called Hands Off Medicaid and SNAP, which will force Republicans to go on the record, since so many of them have said they wouldn't support a bill that cuts Medicaid, and this would put them on the record.
You talk about the people and the fact that, you know, Republican members are avoiding them and not wanting to connect with them. They'll pay attention when they look up and they don't win that seat that they're sitting in next year. But before you get to that, I thought it was very telling from yesterday's Washington Post, the headline regarding the White House maneuvering around easing the China tariffs, noting Trump's pullback reflected the core tension that has bedeviled the White House. What he seeks is virtually impossible without substantial political and economic blowback, even to the constituencies the administration is aiming to protect, meaning that his own people are getting hurt. So you're looking at these communities because a lot of the thinking in MAGA land that all this stuff is only going to impact those blue counties, those blue cities, those blue states. And they fail to understand and appreciate something you know very well, that the rate of return, right, on the taxes that are spent
Absolutely.
out and in a crazy way is covered and protects more of those red states and takes care of more of those red states than those blue states. So all of this going after and breaking down, you know, these communities is really coming home.
But guess what? Guess what he's going to do? It's a very predictable Trump play, which is he is an arsonist and then he plays firefighter. And so, you know, that is the proposal and the reflexive pullback. But the point is people are really hurting and they're bracing for the impact of more harm if this bill becomes law. And so we have to do everything in our power to ensure that this partisan Republican bill does not become law.
People are hurting. So you've got the current economic situation. You've got this bill that is literally going to strip health care away from folks. You've got the tariffs that are just at any given Sunday they change. Right. And on top of all of that, the government now says, hey, everybody needs to start paying back their student loans. And if you don't pay, we're just not going to pop you in forbearance. We're going to garnish your wages. We're going to take your money by any means necessary. And so you, Senator Booker and Senator Warren, actually unveiled a bill to suspend those wage garnishments. And
one of the reasons Trump is backing down, because the political optics are catastrophic. Catastrophic. I'm not saying Trump is a smart man, but he knows that he's getting up there in years. And I do think, in a way, now, maybe this is controversial, but like Trump, he's not smart, but he does think about history sometimes. Like, one of the reasons he likes tariffs is U.S. presidents did them in the past. And maybe they worked, maybe they didn't. They often didn't, but sometimes they did in isolated cases. And he's like, I want to be like those guys. So this is a man concerned with his legacy. And what he sees right now is that if he was to, you know, finish out this term going as he's going, he would be known as one of the most disastrous presidents ever. And that includes more disastrous than the first Trump. Like, if we take them as two separate men, there's Trump 1, there's Trump 2. Trump 2 would be even worse than Trump 1. I mean, J6 is pretty bad, but like, if you tried to do another J6, which you might, he'd definitely be worse than the second term. And it's because the effects are so widespread. What Trump was elected to do, from the moderates that voted for him, unfortunately, was lower prices. But what his base wants, what MAGA wants, is for him to hurt the right people. So, not hurt the white people, especially everybody but the poorest white people. So what the Trump base wants is for Trump to hurt the bad people, people of color, migrants, liberals in big cities, LGBTQ, whatever. It doesn't have to make sense. Any imagined community that's seen as anti-MAGA or is the libs that we can own. But Trump's tariffs are hurting everyone, let's be clear, pretty much everyone, and they're hurting his people more. So when Walmart has to raise prices, every red state, every red community has a Walmart nearby, at least relatively. I think maybe Republicans are more likely to shop at Walmart than Democrats. And now it's very clear it's about his people hurting. And the border towns around Canada, his people hurting. He's losing.